Game Week 13 is here, so it's time to lock in those FPL teams. Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and after a big green arrow in Game Week 12, I'm looking to push on with some big moves ahead of Game Week 13. Let's get going. Before we start, a massive shout out to the sponsor of this video, Fantasy Football Hub, who are running a Green Friday deal right now. Yes, everyone's used to Black Friday, but Green Friday is what it's all about, looking for those green arrows. They are currently running a deal where you can get 30 days for free, cancel anytime, just get involved, and you can access all of Fantasy Football Hub's amazing tools, including the Opta stats, fixture analyzer, and those predicted points for a 30-day period where we have so many more FPL game weeks than ever. It really is the perfect time to try out all of these tools over a really condensed period in FPL. Completely free. Use the link in the description to check it out. And of course, we do have to have a look at my Game Week 12 scores, and it is the biggest green arrow of this season for me. Massive rank change from 1.4 million all the way up to 600,000. It really does show how tight the scores still are in the overall FPL table and how quickly things can change when you do use a wild card or make some major moves in your team, which I certainly did in Game Week 12. Big shout out to Mo Salah, finally in my team and able to captain him for his big return. Saka coming in clutch as well with the goal and the assist. How about Joao Pedro and Cunha though? The spice of the week, doing super well in Game Week 12 with their goals and assists as well. The Brazilian masterminds really doing the business. So overall, really happy with my score. And the great thing is, it could have been even higher. Really impressed by a lot of my players, even the ones who didn't necessarily get FPL points, look very good on their day. So Dina is probably the only concern there. He was rested in Game Week 12, but came back into the Champions League squad for Aston Villa in the midweek. So he's one player I do need to keep an eye on, but I do have plenty of cover on my bench with Kirkez and Ait-Nouri, my bench defenders. So maybe we can look to integrate them into my team in Game Week 13. And for those of you who haven't liked the video yet, you must know by now you are on a yellow card, and if you get another yellow, well, it might be a red for you. So like the video, do subscribe if you want to follow along with my team every game week, and hopefully we can keep pushing up the table with our Game Week 13 team selection. So one free transfer for me, 0.2 in the bank, and my team value is improving as well. Let's start off in goal with Verbruggen, who was pretty unlucky not to get a clean sheet against Bournemouth last game week. It was very close, conceding in the 94th minute. Up until that point, he was on for not only the clean sheet points, but also a couple of bonus points as well. So very close to being a big score for Verbruggen, but we do have Southampton next, which is obviously a very good fixture indeed for any team to play. So hopefully Brighton and Verbruggen can keep a clean sheet in this game. And Verbruggen, a guy who makes plenty of saves, has always got a chance of being in those bonus points and picking up those extra points that way, which can't be said about some of the more expensive goalkeepers. So still very happy with my selection of Verbruggen as a goalkeeper for this excellent run of fixtures for Brighton. Moving on to defence, and we have got Gabriel who faces West Ham. A very good fixture, of course, but we have seen that he is currently flagged. So let's talk about that just a little bit. This is what Arteta has said, speaking after the match. We had to make a change because Gabriel, was feeling some discomfort. I was about to make a change for Raz. I couldn't make the sub. We had to get him out. So Gabriel, he was unfortunately feeling some discomfort in that game, in the Champions League game against Sporting, and he was able to come back onto the field at the end of the game to celebrate with his teammates. So apparently it is just some discomfort. We're not going to get a proper update from Arteta in the press conferences. We never do. So I think we just have to assume he's available and have some players in the backup brigade on my bench just in case Gabriel doesn't play at all. The good thing with a player like Gabriel is that if he doesn't start, he will remain on the bench or in the reserves. It's not like he's going to come on for 1 or 2 minutes to get a 1-pointer in FPL. So I still think he is very much a player I would keep and start. The injury is not significant, and we will hopefully have a bench cover player to come in if things do go terribly wrong. Now, a little bit more information on the clean sheet odds this game week. This comes in from Rob T FPL, and these are the projected clean sheet odds in the right-hand side column here. And Arsenal have a 42% clean clean sheet chance against West Ham. That is the highest odds of any team. I would certainly be having a look at players like Gabriel. He scored in the midweek as well. Urian Timber looking very good for attacking threat as well. If you want another Arsenal asset in your team, looks really good for clean sheet odds this week. But we mentioned Verbruggen earlier against Southampton. 36% chance for Brighton to keep a clean sheet this game week as well. So we have got a couple of defensive assets already with a fairly decent chance of a clean sheet in game week 13. So my next defender is actually going to be Ryan Aït-Nouri at home against Bournemouth. I'm not going to speak about why a little bit later on in the video, but I don't mind this fixture too much. It is okay from an attacking, from a defensive point of view. I think there is definitely potential for a clean sheet for Wolves, although I don't think it is super likely. But then we've seen time and time again this season, there is no such thing as a likely clean sheet in FPL 2024-25. But Aït-Nouri does provide a little bit of attacking threat, and I do think he is worth playing in this game. Definitely a consideration for this fixture. So we are going to go with him as our first cheap defender in my squad, and the other cheap defender is actually going to be Lewis Hall. Now, Lewis Hall, really interesting one. Last game week, I actually thought he looked pretty good in the attack. He took 3 shots, all 3 were in the box, and one of them was a really good chance to score, actually, but also created 2 key passes for his teammates. So that's a pretty decent volume of attacking potential that we did see from him against West Ham. And he was actually the second best for expected goal involvement in game week 12. And we've seen over the past 4, 5, 6 game weeks that he is one of the most attacking defenders in the Premier League at the moment, coming in around 3rd or 4th for expected goal involvement over this period. So very nice indeed. The fixture is also against Crystal Palace, which is quite nice. Do like the look of this one as a fixture. Crystal Palace struggling for goals a little bit, but could Eze be back? Could that change things? I'm not sure. Actually, Newcastle defended reasonably well last game week as well. They didn't really concede too many chances, and maybe can consider themselves a little unfortunate to have conceded 2 goals to West Ham. But we've got to move on from that. I still trust Hall and his attacking potential as well as his defensive capabilities. But once again, we're not expecting clean sheets from anyone really, other than perhaps Arsenal in this particular game week. Let's move on into the midfield positions. So Salah is, of course, my first midfielder here, and he is in absolutely incredible form at the moment. Going through some of his numbers in the past 6 game weeks, 20 shots, 18 in the box, 10 big chances with 4.54 XG. So yes, he is overperforming his XG a little bit with 6 goals, but this is nothing crazy. It's not like he is massively overperforming to an extent where we might be worried. He's probably doing about what we expect a in-form Mo Salah to be doing right now. A couple of assists in there as well, putting him 2nd in the table in the last 6 game weeks for expected points, given his actions on the field, only slightly behind the out of form Haaland, who is putting up plenty of expected points, but not very many actual points. And speaking of Haaland and Man City, who do Liverpool face this week? Well, at Anfield, they do face Man City. And what a fabulous time to be facing Man City as well. Over the past 3 game weeks, no team has conceded more XG than Man City. Yes, Man City are on form, currently the worst defense in the Premier League. And 3 goals conceded to Feyenoord in the midweek is just adding more fuel to the flame that Liverpool are going to be scoring goals and doing brilliantly in this Man City fixture. This is not a Man City fixture that we may have kind of considered at the beginning of the season or last season. This is a different beast. No Rodri, no Kovacic, defensively all over the place, and this is a huge opportunity. Man City, unironically, are a team to target right now. It sounds counterintuitive, but it makes sense when we look at the games and we look at the numbers. So I'm thinking big things from Salah in game week 13, despite the fixture on paper not looking so good. Our next player is Palmer. Now, Aston Villa actually are not putting up bad defensive numbers, but they seem to be just conceding goals a lot at the moment. So Palmer is definitely another player who could perform very, very well this game week. Really unlucky not to score last week. As I mentioned, a lot of the players, even the ones that blanked, kind of seemed unlucky to blank in many ways. And Palmer was one of those players having a real open chance for a goal. And unfortunately, his teammate Madueke was in the way for his shot, blocking the open goal opportunity. But perhaps next week, he won't be quite so unlucky. Aston Villa up next, followed by some really nice fixtures there as well. Saka is the next midfielder in my team, and he has been looking really good since the return of Ødegaard. And I think in general, Arsenal with Ødegaard just looked like a completely different beast. Really, really impressed with them over the past week or so. Again, a big result against Sporting. Saka involved again with the goals and the assists, just like he was at the weekend. And I really think that Saka we've seen previously, where, you know, he's good for 1 goal or 1 assist per week, ticking along nicely. I think he genuinely has Hall potential at this time, so he is yet another player who could be considered for captaincy in Game Week 13. Crazy, I know. And our final midfielder here is going to be Bruno Fernandes for this game week, and he is another player who's putting up pretty good numbers at the moment. We can see for expected points over the past 6 game weeks, he's coming in 4th here, but it's difficult to judge given that Man United have just got a new manager, and I don't really know how this is going to go. Don't think we learned too much last game week for Manchester United, other than I think they look a bit worse defensively, and I'm not sure if Bruno is going to be able to, well, his team in general are going to be able to adapt super quickly. So it might be a couple of weeks before we do see the best of Manchester United, and it could be we just need to be patient with Bruno. That said, he did have a couple of opportunities for shots and for key passes in Game Week 12, so it's not like he was absent. But against Everton, who have been keeping clean sheets recently, I do have to worry just a little bit about what he can produce. But patience is the word of the day for this new Amorim Manchester United system. Let's go up front. Alexander Isak had a big opportunity to score. We could have potentially had a penalty there as well. Not sure if he would have taken it or not, but that's another discussion. This was against West Ham, but in general, what we've seen from our guy recently, Alexander Isak, is his numbers are good. His numbers are good. 0.71 XG in Game Week 12, 0.55 in 11 against Forest, 0.29 against Arsenal, 1.21 against Chelsea, and 0.81 expected goals against Brighton the week before. So since returning from injury, he is putting up insanely good XG numbers. He really, really is. On some occasions, he has scored. On other occasions, not so much. But going into the next game week, Crystal Palace, a good fixture indeed. He is definitely a player who can get back on the score sheets once again. Definitely not anywhere near to giving up on this guy just because of 1 blank against West Ham. I think he is going to cook going forward. And from game week 15, he faces Brentford, Leicester and Ipswich all in a row as well. So there's some great opportunities coming up from Isak, and I think he will reward anyone who has the patience to keep him. There is no way I am selling this guy. He stays in my team. And the next player is going to be Cunha. Now, Cunha is kind of, in many ways, the opposite of Isak, because he is getting a lot of FPL points, particularly in Game Week 12, but the XG, the XA has not necessarily been super high. We saw against Fulham, 2 goals scored from 0.77 XG and an assist from 0.05 expected assists. Against Southampton, scoring from 0.06 XG. Against Palace, an assist there. Against Brighton, another goal from 0.22 XG. So we see time and time again, his numbers are not super high, but his form is so good right now that it's basically counteracting any poor numbers he has. And the thing is with Cunha, yes, his XG data is pretty low, his XA data is decent, but it's nothing incredible. What we're seeing is he's still taking a lot of shots. He's still making key passes. And if you take a lot of shots, some will find the back of the net. And if you're in great form, you're a great player, and your technique is right, even those low XG chances, if you're getting enough of them, they will find the back of the net. And that's kind of what we've seen from Cunha. He is the guy in form. He has the confidence. He's taken enough shots where one will find the back of the net each game. And against Bournemouth at home, I think this is another opportunity for him to maybe get on the score sheet. Fulham was a surprise. Don't get me wrong. I'm more surprised than anyone that Cunha did so well against Fulham. But that has kind of given me more confidence in him in this Bournemouth fixture, which ordinarily I wouldn't say is super easy. I would say this is kind of an average fixture, but I think I have that confidence right now. And that brings us to Joao Pedro, and he is the player I have the most confidence in of all of my forwards for game week 13. Yes, this is the guy I think could do well. So let's bring up Rob T's projections again, and we can see that Brighton lead the table for game week 13 projected goals. 2.45 projected goals in this game week. No team is expected to score more goals in game week 13. And that is brilliant for a player like Joao Pedro, who seems to be involved in everything that Brighton are doing. Key player on penalties, taking shots, creating from his teammates, from those in and around the box kind of areas. This is the guy. His movement and ability to get in the right places in the right time looks really useful from an FPL perspective as well. So this is a big one with the high projected goals for his team. You know he's going to be involved, really backing him to be on the score sheet in game week 13. Goals, assists, I think he should, in theory, outscore Isak and Cunha this week, and I would make him a priority transfer if you don't already have him. 5.6 million is just a crazy game-breaking price for this player. Said it last week, I will say it again. Let's bring up the bench next, guys. Fabianski is going to stay right there on the bench with his fixture against Arsenal. Rodgers away against Chelsea, not super keen on him for this week. He did have a goal disallowed against Juventus due to a foul in the build-up. So that was interesting to see. Rodgers still in reasonably good form in European football. I just don't think this is the game week for him. And an interesting point on him is that I could play Rodgers instead of Bruno in future game weeks because I still do quite like Rodgers. But let's circle back to that because I do want to talk about the defenders for this game week. So obviously, looking at some of these clean sheet odds, you may have noticed that it seems pretty obvious that I would play Hall for Newcastle with a 27% chance of a clean sheet. But then looking at my other defenders, Kirkes from Bournemouth, 21%. And then we've got Aït-Nouri from Wolves, 19%. And obviously Digne against Chelsea, and he is pretty far down at 12% chance of a clean sheet. So for me, it's between Kirkes and Aït-Nouri for who to play this week. The clean sheet odds do suggest going for Kirkes, and also the attacking numbers are slightly favouring Kirkes a little bit at the moment. But I want to go for the big score, and if that's going to be the case, I'm not sure I want to play my Cunha against Kirkes. I've got an attacker against a Bournemouth defender. I don't think I want to play that game this week. Don't want to hedge my bets, if you like. So therefore, that has swayed me towards Aït-Nouri. Now, if I didn't have Cunha, I would probably play Kirkes instead of Aït-Nouri and try and, play against Cunha a little bit. But as a Cunha owner, obviously I'm not going to try and play against Cunha. So that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to bench Kirkes, but I don't want to lead people to believe Kirkes is a bad pick for this week. And certainly if Gabriel is confirmed out for game week 13, I would be fine with Kirkes coming on and being that replacement in this game week. Digne is going to stay rooted to the bench though. Not the game week for him. I am going to be a little bit careful with when I start Digne and try and play him immediately after him being rested. So if you see him playing limited minutes or a rest in one game, whether that be in the Premier League or in Europe or, whatever, the following game week in FPL, I will be looking to start him in those weeks for his incredible attacking threat and try and be a bit smart with it rather than just throwing him in my starting 11 and hoping for the best. But that is what my team is looking like right now. Salah is going to be my captain for this game week. I'm pretty certain on that one. Don't think many people can change my mind. I'm just looking at this Man City team recently and they look awful. They really look terrible defensively, and this Salah is in such good form right now that it just makes total sense to captain him. And I'm hoping that a lot of people will be put off by the red fixture, by how the fixture looks on paper. And if enough people are put off by that, then hopefully I can capitalize on a Salah who in real life terms is facing a really nice opposition. If you actually watch the games, you read into the numbers, this is an opportunity for those who are studying FPL rather than just looking at the fixture difficulty alone, because the fixture difficulty ratings, particularly on the FPL website, can be very, very deceiving. Vice captain on Cole Palmer, also do like the look of him as well, but to be fair, Saka and Joao Pedro also look like potential captain shouts if you did want to go for a differential this week. Plenty of options for this week. It could be a very high scoring FPL game week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next. I genuinely think I could have another really nice big green arrow on the cards, and hopefully we can push up to that top 100k rank within the next few weeks. Not necessarily few game weeks, but few weeks. I think we are on the right trajectory right now, so fingers crossed. Let's have a look at my team on Fantasy Football Hub's predicted points, my team tool. And yes, we have got a team rating of 99%, which is absolutely crazy. Really, really happy that the data is backing up my selections, because all of these tools are based around a lot around data. And yeah, let me know if any of you guys are at 99% or 100% team rating if you are using Fantasy Football Hub this season, or if you're a new user trying to get advantage of that 30-day free trial. Yeah, let me know. How are you guys getting on? What's your team rating right now? But really happy with this. I think we're looking good. I think we have most of the highest predicted points players for Game Week 13. So in many ways, my team kind of feels like a bit of a free hit team in a way. It would be maybe nice to get an additional Arsenal defender in here, but I'm not going to rush into a decision like that. Maybe we will look at Jurrien Timber in the near future though. But I just want to go through some of the next game weeks. Game Week 14, I'm hoping to play Cunha against Brentford. I guess we'll see what happens there. If he doesn't play against Brentford though, that's going to be good news. That means he probably plays against Southampton at home, which could be quite nice. But game week 14 is the midweek game week, so could see a little bit of a rotation through some of the more rotation risk players. But thankfully, I hope most of my players, being the talismans of their team, particularly in these attacking areas, I think most of them should be okay. I did mention earlier that I'm considering playing Rodgers instead of Bruno next week, and given that Rodgers plays Brentford at home and then Southampton at home the following game week, I know a lot of people are talking about selling Bruno in 14, but if you have a Rodgers on your bench anyway, I think you could cover it pretty well with Rodgers, and then continue to monitor the situation at Manchester United for the future game week. So yeah, it's definitely a consideration for me. I guess we'll see exactly what happens with Man United and with Rodgers as well. But aside from that, I am still looking at Bowen as a potential Bruno replacement here. If we look at him from game week 14, he faces Leicester, Wolves, Bournemouth, Brighton and Southampton in a 5-game week period, which is a lovely run of fixtures for him. My one concern is that his data in it isn't anything too crazy. 0.25 expected, well, actual goals, 0.19 kind of expected goals per game week. If we tighten it up a little bit to more recent game weeks, it does go up a little bit, 0.26 xg here. A little bit of creativity there as well, but nothing like crazy high. For 7.4 million, I would maybe hope for a little bit more, but maybe the fixtures could mean that he does really well. But at the same time, could Bruno do just as well, even in more difficult fixtures? Penalty taker, better underlying numbers, new system, improving each game week. I don't know. So I think that is one to monitor for me right now. I think on Burmo owners, you might be considering Bowen as well. But for me as a Bruno owner, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. So, yeah, going to see this one play out. But, of course, guys, if you do want to check out this tool and many, many others absolutely for free for 30 days, make sure you use the link in the description for the Green Friday deal. Do not miss out on this one, guys. It is a great opportunity to basically understand why I love Hub so much, but for free and for a whole month. It's really, really nice, guys. Go check it out. Link in the description. But that's going to be it for me today. If you have any other questions or anything, leave them in the comments. Drop a like before you go. Subscribe if you're new around here. Check out another video. And I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.